Hello, everyone. All right, thanks for joining. Thanks for your questions, Mornal. Try to get to them. Bear with me for another couple minutes. I'm just going to. I need to prepare a couple things. A little bit behind schedule today. Some surprises came up. I'm gonna put some music on for you. Let me know where you're from and put any questions you have, burning questions about oud playing, and we'll get to those for sure. And you'll be able to hear some music shortly. Okay. Should hear some music now. All right. Hey, Robert. Hey, Carol. Hey, Josh. Hey, good to see you, Josh. So any questions you guys have, let's get them out so that I can get those and answer any questions you have. Alright guys, thanks so much for putting some questions in there. Let's get started. First, today there's some new things happening with the oud lessons, so I'll have some announcements there about that that I'll be doing. And today I want to talk about a little bit of about the right hand stroking angle and whatnot on the oud, and answer any of your questions about starting the oud and playing the oud. So this is going to be a very, very basic lesson, and hopefully it'll spark some questions for you guys, or answer some questions that you guys have had about playing the oud, especially the right hand. So before I get to any of your questions, let's go through this. So the first thing for the oud tuning, we've got open C here, we've got G, we've got D, we've got A, and we've got F, and we've got C, low C. So when you first get the oud and you hold the oud, make sure that your right knee is up high so that it supports the oud, and the right knee supports the oud underneath the sound holes, so that's where your knee will be. And then the oud itself, you don't have to play it flat like this, flat against your chest. You can angle it out a little bit. That's fine. It can be a little bit hard for the shoulder and arm to get around here if you're holding it flat. However, some people do hold it that way. That's okay. But if you need to, you can angle the oud this way so that your arm can come snug behind, and the only contact that's being made with the oud is with the forearm here along the edge of the oud. Now, some people play with their arm coming directly at the back. That's fine. That's valid. And that's not particularly comfortable for me. I come at a slight angle for it, and your risha and the right hand should be hanging around this spot here, between the two small sound holes, the left side of the pick guard and the right side of the large sound hole. So somewhere in that zone. And so depending on how your body works and everything, you may have you could be playing up here in this section. That's okay. That would work too. There's a lot of variation, and everyone's kind of different. So now with the left hand comes out to give the oud a handshake, the neck a handshake. So you're always in this kind of a position, and the fingers just come and curl around. Sometimes they're at a slight angle. Sometimes when you're reaching the bass strings, they're a bit more vertical. Depends. Depends on your hand too. What you want to avoid, particularly, is any guitar chord hand positions like this. There should be no gap here. No gap. There's always contact between some part of your hand here and the fingerboard as you go all the way up. The thumb can sometimes come behind the neck a little bit, but for the most part it hangs out around here, up at the top, peeking out behind. So that is the proper hand position, so that you can reach all the notes nice and fine. Now today I want to talk about the right hand a little bit. When we first learn to play the oud, the first basic stroking thing that you learn is to come at the oud at a little bit of an angle, so that when your risha comes down and hits the strings, then the risha gets stopped at the string below. So practice that a little bit, and when you practice it, you have a little bit of a wind up and you hit the string. We're playing on the G string right now, the second string from the bottom. I'm going to show my angle here as best as I can. This is the basic angle of attack that you have. Slightly coming into the oud, into the soundboard of the oud, so that the risha gets stuck on the string. I always forget to talk about the risha, so before we continue, the risha is held like this, in between the index finger and the thumb, and you want it to make sure that it doesn't come beyond this knuckle. So you want the risha to be sticking out between the tip of your finger and the first knuckle, right? And then everything else comes and curls around like this. That is one way of holding. I prefer to keep my fingers all very snug and more tight along this, like a ball, like a fist. Some people, they like to play a little bit like this, a little bit open. I like to curl everything in, get a nice grasp around the risha. Another option for playing, which you see some Persian players and some Armenian players, they put the risha between the finger, the third and the fourth finger. This I find gives a little bit of a different attack. You can try that if that's comfortable for you. You may need to use a softer risha, a less rigid risha to try that. I prefer usually the sound that I get when I have it all the way sticking out through the end of the hand there. That's what I like the best. Okay, now let's talk about the angle here of attack. So there's a little bit of a wind up when you come, your thumb comes up a little bit and then goes down. If it extends further, eventually it goes away from the soundboard. But for now, you just want to hang out here, right on the G string. And you want to develop, you want to go for strength, go for volume. Hit the heck out of the instrument. Don't be afraid of the strings. This way you're going to create a good, nice sound out of your playing. And do that for all the strings. Try it on the C string. Now this is where what's going to happen is your risha may touch the soundboard a little bit. Try not to be too forceful here. Wind up, let go. Wind up, let go. Now change strings, go to the G string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the D string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So as you can see, my elbow is not moving much. All the movement is happening in the wrist and the forearm muscles. So it's up, let go. Practice this a little bit before you get into actually touching the strings. Just bring your hand up, let it go. Feel the weight of your hand coming down. Always keep a nice curve in the thumb, like a ski slope. You can see that there on the right hand. Now for that was the basic stroking pattern. Now we've got the more advanced, but also very basic. In some ways it's basic, in some ways it's advanced. This is where an exercise I show in all my programs I do with all my students, an exercise which will help you a long way down the road when you start to do more advanced patterns, melodies, and whatnot. So I'm going to show you the angle here. So this exercise is very simple. This exercise I learned from Simon Shaheen actually on YouTube, and so it's very useful. I teach it to everybody. What it is you first you go down on the C string, and then you go up on the G string. Down, up, down, up, down, up. What this helps you do, it helps you be able to quickly change between strings. So when you're doing a rundown, a scale, when you change from C to B, it makes it very quick. And if you're able to do this, if you're able to practice this technique, then you'll really be helping you in your more advanced playing that you learn. and it'll help you in the basics as well. But for a long time, I was actually doing downstrokes myself when I was changing strings. That was the method that I learned. But I later learned that people are doing upstrokes when changing strings as well. So I thought this was very useful. It took me a while to get used to. Took me some practice, but eventually I was able to get it to the point where you get at that speed. So the reason why this is advanced is because the angle of attack is a little bit more less of an angle into the oud face, and also it's a smaller movement, so you can see that there's less wind up. You hover around here and then go down, and then you don't flail out so much, you don't keep on extending the hand. It's a very small movement so that you're able to come back inside the strings and do an upstroke on the G string. Small movement. And the way that you achieve this movement, this is really important for the exercise. You stick out your pinky, and this is what Simon Shaheen teaches. You anchor it on the soundboard while holding the risha, and you do the exercise. So do down on C, up on G, while the pinky is anchored to the soundboard. You can see that there. This will rein in your muscles and help you get the right muscle movement, the right muscle activation to do these very small, efficient strokes. All right? So that is key. So when you're doing this exercise just on these two strings, start with the pinky on the fingerboard. All right, so now let's continue. The next part of the exercise is to do a downstroke on G, upstroke on D. So what you want to do here is you want to start getting a bit very deliberate with your strokes. Develop a pattern. And then D and A. And then A and F. And then F and C. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you. Distinction between the basic movement, the basic stroke, which you're stroking a bit more into the soundboard, a bit harsher angle, and with these more efficient strokes. What might happen is that your thumb might be moving when you experiment with this. Your thumb might have to move a little bit in order to get inside to do a nice upstroke on the next string beside it. So I highly recommend these exercises. And also when you're playing, don't be afraid of the strings. If you hit stray strings here and there, just play it. Just don't worry about it. Just go for strength and go for control, for power, and really get the sound coming out of the instrument. You can always pull back later. So that's basically all I wanted to do with you and talk about these two different ways of attacking the strings and playing on them. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to answer that right now. Wanted to also let you know that for those of you who haven't started or thinking of getting some extra lessons or something and not sure if this is right for you, I started doing like a free consultation or like a trial lesson that you can attend. Now, the times that I have available right now for trial lessons are a little bit limited. So I might be opening those up, changing the times. But I wanted to share with you the link to the free trial lesson, 20-minute trial lesson or consultation. This might be good for somebody who's thinking about doing Zoom lessons, not sure if it's gonna really be suitable for them. Not sure if it's really going to be effective. So you can try come online with me. All the lessons are on Zoom, and all the details about my rate and how the terms and conditions work are all there on that page. So check that out if you are interested in doing this at some point. And for any of you guys who are new students who have never worked with me before, had any private lessons, I will also be having doing a little promotion on doing a little discount for your first 2 lessons, and I can share with you the link to purchase that. So it's like you can purchase a package and of 2 lessons. And 2 lessons would be $80. Usually 2 lessons would be $100, but in this case, if you take advantage of this package, you can get 2 lessons for $80, which is 20% discount. It's not too bad. And I'll have to bring up the link here, but PayPal has just recently updated, and I can't find where everything is. They've updated their whole thing, so I'll have to figure that out at a certain point. But if I can't get that link to you to get the packages, what you can do is email me at support@oudforguitarists.com if you're interested, or just book a consultation with me, and I can get you those discount on 2 oud lessons. And those 2 lessons will be valid for April. That would be this month. And so you can email me there. So let's go through and answer any questions you guys have. All right. Early question. When first learning to play, is it better to concentrate on finding or playing the notes accurately, or should one play simple etudes even if the notes don't sound right yet? Yeah, that's a good question. Very good question. So I sometimes take 2 approaches that way. Sometimes it's necessary, depending on where the student is, to just play and not worry about the intonation, about getting the notes accurately, because those things will work itself out. It's tricky though. I only recommend this though when you have a teacher that you're working with. So for example, in my private lessons, I may tell the student to, okay, just play. Don't worry about the intonation. Just get the basic movements, the muscle memory. Develop that first, and then work on the intonation later. Sometimes that's useful for a student, and so it depends on the student. It depends on how I'm always assessing the student to see what they need, what I need to get them to do. And because I'm their guide, I can tell them later on, okay, now you're at the point where you need to focus on the intonation now. And sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes someone really needs to get the intonation first for them to know that they're playing. Some of the more experienced musicians, if they're new to the oud but have a background in music, I tell them to, okay, yes, get the intonation, work out the intonation, because they're not going to enjoy how it sounds because they know what it should sound like. So they have a better chance of hitting it right anyway, or working on that. They also have more experience learning an instrument anyway from their background. So sometimes I take the opposite approach. But yeah, sometimes it's important to get the muscle movement first, regardless of how the oud sounds. But the risk with that is if you don't have somebody to help you and tell you when you need to change that focus, the risk is that you may start just playing wrong notes and you won't develop your ear. And if you don't have a guide and if you're just learning by yourself, then you may start playing all the notes false, and you may be slightly... Okay, we had a bit of a disconnect there. I'm back now. So you didn't miss anything. I always get a notification here when it goes offline and when it gets reconnected. So I just stop what I'm doing, so you don't worry about catching up. Everything is fine. You didn't miss anything. So yeah, so it depends. It depends on... That's a really good question, and I like that question because it often comes up. Sometimes I tell students, just play. Don't worry about how it sounds. Just play. Get the muscle movement. Get comfortable. Don't be afraid of how it sounds. But then later on, I have to tell them, okay, switch gears now. Focus on getting this note right. Listen to it. Watch where my fingers are. You know, that kind of thing. So good question. So question about the tonic. Does the tonic define the maqam? For example, if you play Nahawand starting on a B instead of C, is it a different maqam? So yes and no. That's a very good question about maqam. So the tonic sometimes defines the maqam. Sometimes it does not. So in theory, a maqam is transposable from one note to another. For example, in Nahawand, we can play it on C, and that would be considered Nahawand. We can also play it on D. So it's transposable. But what makes Nahawand is how you play the maqam, the melodies you play, and those facets. Sometimes, though, we do have maqams that have been transposed, and the way that they fall on the transposed position allows for different things to happen because of the instrument. So there are some maqams, like in Turkish music, there's maqams like Suzadil, Hijaz Kar, Shad Araban, and Shahnaz, which have very similar structures, and they have subtle differences. First of all, their tonic is different, the starting note is different, so that's one thing, that's part of it. But then also the actual melodies and the modulations that have become to be known in those maqams are actually different too. So sometimes Suzadil can sound like Shad Araban, but sometimes it sounds different. So learning these subtle things is another advanced level of learning, an advanced factor of learning a maqam. So there's that as well. So that's a very good question. But for the most part, in the basic, if you look at it in a basic way, transposing the maqam is fine, as long as the melodies, the way you put the melodies together, and the way you play the maqam sounds the same, it's fine. All right, thanks Mohammed for joining from Seattle. Question about fretless instruments in general. How do you always play the right note? Is it just muscle memory, or is there a logical path to finding the tone on the fret? So there's both ways. There's both approaches. For example, and it depends on the student, how I show what you need to do. Sometimes I show it from a purely muscle memory thing. Sometimes I use both approaches. Sometimes, like when it comes to finding the quarter tones, I use a very specific couple tricks to help you find the note. But in the end, when you get to an advanced level, you just have to use your ear, and your fingers have to adapt. But there are some basic things, like for example, let's go to the D string. On the D string here, in the first position, we've got D, E flat, E natural, F, F sharp, and then we have G on the next string. These fingers are responsible for certain notes. Your first finger is always going to be responsible for E flat, always. And your second finger is always going to be responsible for either E or F. And then your first finger is also going to be responsible for E flat as well as the E half flat or E quarter flat. Sometimes, in rare cases, the middle finger also plays the E half flat. So there's different scenarios, and we will, like, you learn it for the specific context that you're playing. The third finger is always going to be responsible for F and sometimes F sharp. The pinky finger is always going to be responsible for F sharp, F half sharp, and the G on the D string up here. So there's always some certain combinations that always are true. And so developing muscle memory is effective because you don't have to think about it. That's one approach. Then the actual finding the logical path, there's one logical path to finding the quarter tone. It doesn't give you the precise quarter tone that you always be playing because the quarter tone can change depending on the region, depending on the maqam. For example, in maqam rast, the E half flat, E quarter flat, mi nus bemol, we call it in Arabic. It's sometimes a bit sharper in maqam rast, sometimes a bit flatter in maqam bayati. So it's variable. That's the more advanced level. But for the beginner, you learn it in one spot and you learn the approximate spot for it. And the way that you do that is you find D, the open string, you find the minor third interval, the F with your third finger. You have to find those notes. Then take that interval from the nut and your third finger, split it in half, and put your first finger there. And you've got the approximate zone for the quarter flat. But in the next level of learning the quarter flat, then you have to adjust based on how your teacher is playing it, or how what song you're hearing is playing it. So it may be a little bit flatter, maybe a little bit sharper, but you need to find the zone first, and then get that in your muscle memory, then adjust. So it takes a teacher to kind of, hear how the student is playing, and then tell them to practice. No, it's got to be a little bit flatter for what we're doing, and then use muscle memory to hammer that in. Doing just very easy exercises to do the muscle memory. So it's both ways. So, good question. How to know where to add embellishments and ornamentation in the songs? And that takes a lot of time to learn if you're just doing it by yourself. Sometimes when there's like basic notes, you fill it up. You want to fill the space. Where can you fill space tastefully? That's the question. So sometimes if you have a note that lasts for 1 beat or 2 beats, you can add tremolo to the note. You can add a rhythmic fill. So there's those kind of things. And how much space is in between the notes that you have. Let's say you have a run like this. Very simple. Can you add something to it? There, I added some notes in between the notes. That's what I call doubling. Or are some notes too lonely? Do they feel like they need something to support them? Like, for example, do you want to support it with the bass? Is it calling you? Sometimes you got to hear so many examples to learn how everyone is kind of doing it, and then put those examples, copy that, latch onto what you like, and then try to do it yourself. So it's getting exposed to good music is important to learn what embellishments and what ornaments to do. I have a course on that. It's called the Masterclass. If you're interested in learning that, here I'll put the link to it in the chat. Let me find it for you. This course, what it does is it takes a song, a very nice samai bayati al aryan, and you learn it the basic way, and then you learn it with some more nuances and embellishments and ornaments, and so it helps you apply these. They're kind of formulas that you can apply to your playing. So here's the page where you can learn more about that course. That's a good question. Thanks for asking it. Okay, let's move on. All right, so someone just bought an oud. That's great. Congratulations. Okay, so let's with the quarter semitones on Pro Tuner, is it found midway between the sharp and the natural? Yeah, so it depends on the tuning app that you have, but it'll be somewhere midway between a flat and the natural. Yes. Usually, like it'll be maybe in the 50 cents flat or sharp, depending on what note is being shown. If E flat is being shown for the E half flat, then it's going to be E flat plus 50 cents or so, and it'll be in that range. Now, if I'm saying 50 cents, but we don't always use 50 cents, it's going to be flatter or sharper, like I mentioned earlier. Okay, so if you guys have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer. But that's all I've prepared today. I really thank you guys for joining. It's great to see 20 people watching concurrently. There's 17 people watching this right now. It's really awesome to see that there's 17 oud players out there learning and wanting to learn oud. So I'm really happy to see that. I plan to put timestamps in the live videos. I know that the live videos are long to watch, and you want to skip to the good parts. So I'll be doing that hopefully for this video today. Thanks again for watching, and I'm gonna find that link. I'm gonna take some time to find that link to the oud packages, and then so that if you guys are interested in checking that out, you can do that. You can take a purchase of a couple oud lessons. If you're not sure if oud lessons are right for you, or you want to give it a try, check the link to the consultation thing, and here's the consultation link where you can learn all about the oud lessons. And if none of the times work there, you can email me at my email address, and we can arrange another time for that. Alright, let me find this link for the oud packages. Okay, I think I'm finding it. PayPal completely changed the way that everything looks, so I'm trying to find everything again. Almost there, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. If you dropped off, that's all good. I appreciate you guys joining. If you guys have any last minute questions, I will try to answer as best as I can. trying to do something on a live session is tricky because the internet, the loading pages gets a bit slower. Okay, I found it. Almost there, guys. All right, here we go. Okay, here's the link. Here's the link to the Oud packages. So you can purchase 2 lessons for $80. That's a 20% discount on my regular price. And if you're not sure, check the consultation or free trial lesson and book one of those with me. Happy to do lessons with you guys. And let's see if there's anything else I'm forgetting here. Oh yeah, okay, I'll put that I'll put the link in the description as well. All right, I'll get to your question in a second. All right. Should one try to play with a straight left-hand thumb? You seem to curl yours slightly. Yeah, I always curl the thumb. The reason why I curl the thumb is because it provides a bit more stability for the risha. If you're like this, you see there's less contact. There's only this much. There's only the tip of your finger supporting the risha. So if you want more stability, put the whole thumb down. That's important, I think. Then the strings are not going to fight back the risha as much. So I hope that answers your question. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great evening, a great Sunday evening. Hope you have a great week. And there will be another live Oud lesson maybe next week. So if you're not on the newsletter already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you then. Thanks so much, guys. Which thumb are you? Left-hand thumb. I see. I see now. Yeah, so the left-hand thumb, I don't really think about it at all. It's kind of... Yeah, it comes and goes in different shapes depending on what needs to happen with the support. So I don't think about it too much. So I don't think you need to worry about what it's doing. As long as your fingers are hitting the right notes, I think you're okay. All right, thanks again. Bye.